A shakeup at the top of the NFL draft.
The Bears were in position to make this deal, and they had multiple suitors for the number 1 overall pick. And ultimately, Carolina felt like this was the right compensation package.
We inch closer to Selection Sunday.
At the left angle, Derek Whitehead. Back up between the circles for Roach. He calls for a ball screen, gets it from Lively to the right. Gets into the paint. Kick out Proctor. Right angle 3. Good.
An all-time great retires.
I'm thrilled to be retired. I felt better the last 2 days than I felt in 47 years.
And all the action around the NBA.
Lane, high screen from Nurk. Bounce pass back to Nurkic. He drives, he steps through, he banks it into the foul.
This is Sports Center all night.
Before he hired me, I told him I was going to Rochester, and he says, "No, you're not." He said, "We're giving you 3 years." I said, "I need 4." I didn't think anything about 47.
Sports Center all night, ESPN Radio and the ESPN app, Sirius XM Channel 80. I'm Alex Sobario here with you. ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. It is championship week. We are less than 24 hours away from Selection Sunday. Conference tournaments heating up around the country as they whittle the field down to decide who is headed to the big dance. Bubble teams praying there aren't any bid stealers out there. But before we get to the action on the college hardwood, some major NFL news on Friday.
Breaking news, the Panthers have decided to move up to take the number 1 spot from the Bears.
The Bears were in position to make this deal, and they had multiple suitors for the number 1 overall pick.
Oh, this is a slam dunk for the Chicago Bears. You're talking about, the fact that they got Justin Fields, and now you have true number 1 in DJ Moore.
The teardown was the right move, and now this is a quality move by a second-year general manager, beyond a quality move.
So you heard it there. The Chicago Bears, now the previous owners of the number 1 overall pick in next month's NFL draft. The Bears are sending the top pick to the Carolina Panthers in exchange for a haul. This first reported by ESPN's Adam Schefter. The Bears will get the 9th overall pick in this draft, a second-round selection in this year's draft as well. We'll also get the first-round pick in 2024 and a second-rounder in 2025, and also DJ Moore. Adam Schefter on SportsCenter on how this trade came together.
These talks have been going on and have intensified since the Combine. The Bears were in position to make this deal, and they had multiple suitors for the number 1 overall pick. Houston was interested in moving up 1 slot. Carolina was interested. Other teams checked in with Chicago. And ultimately, Carolina felt like this was the right compensation package. The Panthers believe they have 48 days, and they've got the right coaches in the building right now. Frank Reich, Josh McCown, others, their general manager, Scott Fitterer, to assess this quarterback class and to make a decision. Just hung up the phone with someone in the organization, and I said, there's a belief that David Tepper loves Bryce Young, Frank Reich likes C.J. Stroud, and they said, we love all these quarterbacks, and we've got 48 days to make a decision on which one we will be taking.
Decisions. Now, with that many assets leaving one team in Carolina, it's clear that the Panthers are thinking their next franchise quarterback could be coming in that top overall selection, and the Panthers have their pick of the litter.
Everybody's trying to figure out exactly what Carolina do. Look, I think the pick will boil down to either Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud. If you look at Frank Reich's history, and you know well, he has preferred bigger quarterbacks. That would be the C.J. Stroud model. There are people who believe that Bryce Young should be the number 1 overall pick, that he's a mini Patrick Mahomes. Well, we'll see if that is the direction they go. But clearly at this point in time, it seems to be a decision between Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud, both in play for the number 1 overall pick. And as that one Panthers official just said to me, we've got 48 days to go through this.
Again, Adam Schefter on the 6 p.m. Sports Center. And while the Panthers gave up a ton, the Bears, meanwhile, they have a quarterback that they like in Justin Fields. So the top overall pick was a tradable asset for them. Courtney Cronin, ESPN Bears reporter, was on Canty and Carlin and Fields. Bears GM Ryan Poles, after hearing offers from other teams, including Houston and potentially Indianapolis, got the haul he wanted from Carolina.
The haul is exactly what Ryan Poles wanted, and to be able to get a receiver right now in this group, it helps because their leading receiver was Darnell Mooney, and he finished with 493 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns and missed the final 5 games of the season. Of course, the future draft capital is a big deal, but when you think about this team and helping Justin Fields build as a quarterback for right now, having somebody for him to throw the ball to is of critical importance. So getting a receiver in this trade helps Chicago, gives them a little bit more clarity regarding what the moves they can make going forward, starting on Monday when the legal tampering window opens.
So now with the Bears drafting at 9, who would they take in this year's draft? Matt Miller, ESPN NFL draft analyst, gave his thoughts.
I think the conversation starts with Jalen Carter from Georgia, who a week ago was projected to maybe be the number 1 overall pick. Now, we know he was arrested in connection to those 2 misdemeanor charges in Georgia. We have to see how that plays out. NFL teams are definitely doing their research right now. Could Jalen Carter fall to number 9 overall? I don't think that's out of the question as of right now. So he's definitely still in the mix. If they're not comfortable, then I think you pivot to someone like Texas Tech pass rusher Tyree Wilson, who had a phenomenal year for Texas Tech, incredibly productive. We saw the wingspan at the combine, which is like an NBA power forward. So they need pass rush help in Chicago. Tyree Wilson is just a shade under Alabama's Will Anderson as the top pass rusher in this class. He can play as a 4-3 defensive end. You see the length, the power, the burst. He dominated Big 12 offensive lines this past year, and he's great against the run. So with what they want to do, Matt Eberflus, Chicago's head coach, he wants to run a 4-3 defense. Tyree Wilson is perfect for that.
So the NFL draft begins on April the 27th. It is March 11th, and we're still talking about the NFL with all the wheeling and dealing going on. So we'll find out what the Bears decide officially again in April.
Conferences mean circle dates. Legendary careers at one place. A star is born. It's a neighborhood on hardwood. Settling scores. Now the time has come for tickets to be punched and titles won. Welcome to Champ Week.
This is Champ Week as we switch from the gridiron to the college hardwood. Some big semifinal games in the Big 12 and ACC on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, and SiriusXM Channel 80. We'll start in the Big 12, Iowa State and Kansas facing off in one of the semis. The Cyclones with a lot of success in recent years against the Jayhawks in the conference tournament, with Iowa State winning the last 3 matchups. In context, the rest of the Big 12 has a combined 5 wins against the Jayhawks over the last 20 seasons in the conference tournament. Things looking good early for the Jayhawks. KJ Adams dunking all over the gym.
Jaron Holmes leading the offense for Iowa State. And alley-oop, Oshuni couldn't come up with it at the rim, went off his fingertips. Harris has it left to right. He lobs for Adams, who grabs and flushes on the alley-oop. That's how it's done. Holmes makes a run to the three-point line. Over the top board, deflected by Jalen Wilson. Up ahead they come. Yesufu, bounce past Harris, finds the rolling Adams for the two-hand stuff. Great transition basketball started by Jalen Wilson on the defensive end.
That bucket made it 33-25. Jayhawks, they led by 8 at the half, but the Cyclones made it interesting. Down by 4, Jaron Holmes kept off a 7-2 run with a big shot.
Holmes dribbles to his left, back to the top, stops, can't pass it inside. Now they go into the mid-post to Jones. 7 to shoot. Here comes the double team, forcing him into the corner. Pass to Holmes, gets off a good-looking 3 and buries it. Iowa State back within 1.
But the Jayhawks would respond up by 3. Ernest Uday Jr. goes up to get it.
Juwan Harris ahead of half court will go to Pettiford. Out at the right hash of the three-point line to the free throw line. Knocked down the defender, passed out. Harris has it. They run at him over the top. Caught by Uday, who flushes on the alley-oop. Whoa, Harris and Uday connecting there. Kansas with a 5-point lead.
That made it 46-41. Then Grady Dick helped extend the lead back to 7.
Now penetrates the three-point line, drives inside, pass out to Grady Dick. From the left, drives, hangs off the window and in, and a foul. They call the blocking foul underneath on Oshuni, and Grady Dick, who was scoreless in the first half, has a chance at a 3-point play.
So Kansas picks up the victory as they head to the Big 12 championship game with 71-58 victory over Iowa State. Jalen Wilson joined our Chris Button after the game.
Jalen, another double-double for you, but I want to start with Juwan Harris. Being able to guard Kelsey today. When he's on, what does he do so well defensively for you guys?
He just opens up our game so much. You know, he's a on-ball defender that comes down as a floor general, and he does everything that we need every single night. playing aggressive once again, and he's everything that we need in the point guard.
You're back in another Big 12 championship tomorrow. Where has this team made the biggest strides over the last couple weeks?
Just keying in on defending, making that the most important part of the game. Understanding if we can just guard and make teams play bad, offense will take care of itself.
You played under Bill Self for so long. What would he be telling your team back there in the locker room today?
Great win, and focus on tomorrow.
Appreciate it. Congratulations.
The 17th quad one victory for Kansas this season, the most in Division I. You heard from Jalen Wilson, 25 points, 10 rebounds, 3 steals. He's just the third player in Big 12 history with multiple 2010 games in a single Big 12 tournament, joining Kevin Durant in 2007 and Baylor's Corey Joseph in 2014. As for the other half of the Big 12 semis, a battle for Texas. The Horned Frogs of TCU taking on the 7th-ranked Texas Longhorns. 2-point game in the first half. Dylan Disu went to work for Texas.
Pass to Disu. Disu puts it on the deck once, puts it over the hands of Peavy and scores, and he's 6 for 7 in the game. More importantly, he's got a dozen.
Longhorns up by 4 there. They led by 8 over the Frogs at halftime, and then Mike Miles for TCU helped lead the charge back. Frogs trailing by 5 here on ESPN Radio.
Ball dribbles to the right wing, cuts across the top. Left-hand dribble over to Miles, who hit a 3 earlier in the half. Miles now drives, finds a seam, layup good. Mike Miles brings the Horned Frogs within 3.
So hard to stop when he's going full speed. He's like a running back trying to hit the hole.
So the Texas would respond, though. They're up by 4 when Marcus Carr let one fly.
Cunningham, the offensive rebound. Passes out to Carr, catch and shoot 3. It's good! Marcus Carr was 1 for 9 before that shot, and Texas goes up 60-53.
Yeah, that's one thing about good scorers. They will not stop shooting the ball until they see it go in the hole.
Big shot to put Texas up by 7, but Miles says, well, I can do that too.
5 minutes to go in the semi. Miles jump stop, lost the ball, got it back. He's covered. Outside to Shahade Wells. Ball faking a drive. Out to Miles. Long 3 from the wing. It's an answer 3 for Miles in TCU.
Made it a 4-point game. Miles had 15 in the game for TCU. Now with TCU on offense and for the Horns defense, that defense creates offense.
Peavy holding. Now the dribble. Cuts to the right. Finds a seam. Breaks the double shot. Blocked by Disu. Texas has it the other way. Marcus Carr down the lane. Layup, yes. 2 minutes to go as the Longhorns lead 62-56.
That increased the Longhorns lead here on ESPN Radio. They'd win it by a final of 66-60. TCU would keep it interesting, but it's Texas that advances and moves on to face Kansas in the Big 12 title game tomorrow. It's the 25th win of the season for Texas. It's the most they've won since they won 28 back in the 2010-2011 season, and it's their first time in the Big 12 tournament final since they won it in 2021. They won 9 of their last 11 games against TCU, and it's the 13th quad one victory for the Texas Longhorns, second by only the Kansas Jayhawks, who is their opponent coming up tomorrow. And coming up here on SportsCenter All Night, here on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app, we head to Chicago for the Big Ten tournament. Ohio State on an incredible run. Could they continue as they took on the Spartans of Michigan State? Find out next. This is SportsCenter All Night on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Coming up Monday with the NFL free agency about to kick off, I'll tell you which free agent can turn your team into a Super Bowl contender. Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max Monday morning at 6 Eastern on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, ESPNU.
This is SportsCenter All Night.
Are you working way too hard for way too little? There's never been a better time to consider a career in IT. You could enjoy a recession-resistant career in a rewarding field with
conditions. It's riddled with pain, rejection, shame, and isolation. At Mercy Ships, we're answering the cries of some of the world's most forgotten children and adults through free, life-changing surgeries that turn despair into hope. These once heartbroken boys and girls, and many men and women too, are now restored, accepted, and on their way to a life of opportunity and joy. No one can change the world on their own, but together we can transform it by restoring hope to one person, one child at a time. Volunteers from your community and around the globe are bringing life-changing healing and hope to the forgotten poor. To learn how you too can help change the world, one child at a time, go to mercyships.org today.
Barstool Big Cat with Waddle and Sylvie, Tuesdays at 4. Brought to you by Curcio Law.
This is SportsCenter all night on ESPN Radio and on the ESPN app.
SportsCenter all night, ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Alex Stobario here with you as we go into your Sports Saturday. ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Progressive Commercial Insurance flexes to fit your business's needs. From quick repairs to adjustable coverages and even payment options, Progressive Commercial makes it easy to get what you need. Quote today in as little as 6 minutes at progressivecommercial.com. We stay in college basketball. Big Ten tournament going on in Chicago. Penn State, the number 10 seed, taking on the second-seeded Northwestern Wildcats. Northwestern took a 56-54 lead after Robbie Barron layup with a minute to go. Penn State calls timeout. Next Penn State possession. Here's Steve Jones from Learfield.
Pickett drives down the lane line, wheels, kicks it off underneath, treads, Lundy near wing, 8 to shoot, Lundy to the bucket, stumbles, keeps his feet, fires in, got it, Penn State ties the game at 56 with 39.2 to go.
And Seth Lundy with the jumper there for the for the Nittany Lions to make it a 56-all game. Lundy would give an opportunity to both teams to get a shot to win in regulation. Neither could, so would go into overtime, and that's where Penn State completed the upset.
Bowie up, and that one is short, batted out. It's loose. Aggies at the wire to win it. Missed it. Rebound batted out of bounds. And the Nittany Lions go to the semifinals as they beat Northwestern 67-65. Pretty not pretty does it for the Nittany Lions.
So from the quarterfinals to the semifinals, the Lions are moving on. They'll take on Indiana, who beat Maryland by 10. Meanwhile, 13th seed Ohio State taking on Michigan State for a spot in Saturday's semifinals. The Buckeyes, with just 5 conference wins in the Big Ten this year, taking on the heavily favored Spartans, the number 4 seed. Buckeyes.
Noon drive show in New York. It's the Michael K. Show. And it's every weekday at 2:55 on 98.7 ESPN.
This is SportsCenter all night on ESPN Radio and on the ESPN app.
SportsCenter all night, ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Alex Stobario here with you as we go into your Sports Saturday. ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Progressive Commercial Insurance flexes to fit your business's needs. From quick repairs to adjustable coverages and even payment options, Progressive Commercial makes it easy to get what you need. Quote today in as little as 6 minutes at progressivecommercial.com. We stay in college basketball. Big Ten tournament going on in Chicago. Penn State, the number 10 seed, taking on the second-seeded Northwestern Wildcats. Northwestern took a 56-54 lead after Robbie Barron layup with a minute to go. Penn State calls timeout. Next Penn State possession. Here's Steve Jones from Learfield.
Pickett drives down the lane line, wheels, kicks it off underneath, treads, Lundy near wing, 8 to shoot, Lundy to the bucket, stumbles, keeps his feet, fires in, got it, Penn State ties the game at 56 with 39.2 to go.
And Seth Lundy with the jumper there for the Nittany Lions to make it a 56-all game. Lundy would give an opportunity to both teams to get a shot to win in regulation. Neither could, so would go into overtime, and that's where Penn State completed the upset.
Going up, and that one is short, batted out. It's loose. Aggies at the wire to win it. Missed it. Rebound, batted out of bounds. And the Nittany Lions go to the semifinals as they beat Northwestern 67-65. Gritty, not pretty, does it for the Nittany Lions.
So from the quarterfinals to the semifinals, the Lions are moving on. They'll take on Indiana, who beat Maryland by 10. Meanwhile, 13th seed Ohio State taking on Michigan State for a spot in Saturday's semifinals. The Buckeyes, with just 5 conference wins in the Big Ten this year, taking on the heavily favored Spartans, the number 4 seed. Buckeyes, though, led by 9 at the half, and the second half belonged to Robbie Gale Jr. as he was sharp from downtown.
17 on the shot clock. Buckeyes being very deliberate on offense. As we near the 2-minute mark, ball goes left point, Roddy Gale. Gale will dribble to the foul line, go down the lane, shoots it low on the right. Gale got it, Roddy Gale. Taken over with a new career-high 15, Gale. And it's 63-52 Ohio State. 4 seconds left. Inbound to Bowen Hardman in the backcourt. Hardman a couple of dribbles, leaves it for Tanner Holden. And Ohio State has moved to the semifinals of the Big Ten tournament as they knock off Michigan State 68-58.
That was Paul Keels from Learfield with the call. Buckeyes with the upset, so they move on to face the top seed Purdue in tomorrow's semifinals. Buckeyes making history as the lowest seeded team to reach the semifinals in Big Ten tournament history. Bruce Thornton with 21 points to lead the way for the Buckeyes. As for the Spartans, they just couldn't make a shot from downtown. They were just 3 for 16 from beyond the arc. Their lowest outside shooting form this season. ESPN bracketologist Joe Lenardi still has Michigan State in as a 7 seed in the NCAA tournament. So the Big Ten semi set up like this. Ohio State takes on Purdue at noon Eastern time, and then 19th ranked Indiana will take on Penn State after that. To the Big East, Xavier taking on Creighton.
He crosses the timeline, comes to a stop, keeping the dribble going. Right hand, left hand, right hand, left hand. Now he accelerates. Back out, straight away. Jack Dungy, straight away 3.
Dungy hits a 3. Give the assist to Sule.
That put him up by 20. That's Joe Sunderman with the call from Learfield. Xavier with the victory over Creighton in the A-10 tournament, in the Big East tournament, 82-60. Meanwhile, in the SEC, Vanderbilt taking on Kentucky.
Got Wright posting against Reeves. Goes to lower ground, trying to hide a low. Wright, a tough catch in traffic down low. In there against Reeves. Falls down, throws it outside. Magnon saves it right at midcourt with 2, with 1. End of the shot clock, 3. Right down. 3 for Ezra as the timer was running out to make it 66-60.
6-point lead at that point for Vanderbilt. They'd go on to beat Kentucky 80-73 in the SEC tournament. We'll shift gears to the NBA now. More college basketball coming up a little bit later. Suns still dealing with the news of Kevin Durant's sudden freak ankle injury during the pregame warmups on Wednesday. ESPN NBA insider Adrian Wojnarowski reporting that Durant is expected to miss 2 to 3 weeks. Durant had an MRI on Thursday after leaving the Footprint Center Wednesday in a walking boot. Tim Bontemps, ESPN NBA reporter, was on Fitz and Harry, says he doesn't think Durant will just come back and be himself.
You can't just assume he's going to be on the court and playing and everything will be fine, given the fact that we're talking about a guy who will have potentially only played 3 games in 3 months by the time the playoffs have started, and will have not played a single home game with his team. Will have not played with the team maybe in a month after sitting out for 3 weeks after the trade to then come back and play. And you're then talking about him having to go through the playoffs and play, 40, 42, 44 minutes a night, probably every other night for 2 months for this team to win a championship.
As for Durant's former team, the Brooklyn Nets, they took on the Timberwolves in Minnesota on Friday. 4 quarters wasn't enough for these two teams. We go into the overtime, tied at 114. Brooklyn found themselves down by 3. Then it got the ball to Mikal Bridges.
Here's Johnson back outside. O'Neal into the corner. Finney-Smith. 8 to shoot for the Nets. Dinwiddie holding. Spencer Dinwiddie gliding through. Outside. Bridges a 3. Is good. Mikal Bridges knotting it up at 121.
all tied at 21. And then Dorian Finney-Smith with a game-winning three. You heard it there on the Yes Network. Mike Conley would have had a chance to win it, but his three-pointer was off the line. That to clear out the victory in Minnesota, 124 to 123. Bridges led with 34 points. Still more to come. Half-hour headlines is next. Sports Center all night, ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Hey, it's Greeny, and hope you're enjoying this weekend. I can tell you all I'm doing is sitting and refreshing Twitter every 15 seconds, waiting for news on Aaron Rodgers coming to the Jets. We'll talk about that, Selection Sunday, and more Monday. It's Greeny, starting 10 a.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Guys, fellas, men, are you Roman ready for the weekend? Right now, generic Viagra, aka sildenafil, is just $4 per dose at Roman. Just complete a free online visit with a U.S. licensed healthcare professional. If medication is appropriate, Roman sends what you need in discreet packaging with free 2-day shipping. Generic Viagra from $4 at Roman. Go to ro.co/weekend. Do it today and get 20% off your entire first order. That's ro.co/weekend.
Meet Joe A.
Hi.
Mass forever. Join us. Together we are stronger. Walk MS fundraising accelerates research breakthroughs and life-changing breakthroughs. It will take all of our passion, determination, and fundraising to end MS forever. Together, we can change the world for people with MS. Join us. Register today, start a team, and raise funds at walkms.org.
Rizzy to learn more.
This is Sports Center all night on ESPN Radio and on the ESPN app.
Sports Center all night, ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. My name is Alex Silbaro here with you on your Sports Saturday. ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance.
Half-hour headlines on Sports Center all night.
Well, the top headline is pretty obvious. It's the biggest news of the day. The Carolina Panthers now hold possession of the number 1 overall pick in the upcoming NFL draft. They're making a deal with the previous holder, the Chicago Bears. 4 draft picks, and wideout DJ Moore headed to Chicago in exchange for the top pick. Sources told ESPN's Adam Schefter on Friday it's believed they will use that pick to draft a quarterback. Speaking of NFL quarterbacks, the Cowboys worked out contract restructuring with quarterback Dak Prescott and right guard Zach Martin, which gave the Cowboys an additional $30 million in cap space after previously being $18 million over. The Cowboys still can work out extensions for both players. Prescott currently in year 3 of a 4-year, $160 million deal. Meanwhile, in Green Bay, it seems like we may be inching closer to the end of the Aaron Rodgers era at Lambeau. Packers president Mark Murphy spoke to WIAA in Wisconsin at the Wisconsin Interscholastic Athletic Association girls tournament and didn't rule out the possibility that Rodgers could be back, but did say he's free to request a trade.
Yes, we did give him permission, but I really can't get into the details. And we're really hopeful that we can reach a resolution that works not only for Aaron, but for us.
Is there a scenario where Aaron is still the starting quarterback of the Packers next season?
Yeah. I mean, if things don't work out the way we would want them, yeah. He's obviously a great player and, 4-time MVP. And, but, I think it's, trying to find, what he wants and what we want. And hopefully we can find a win-win situation.
Is retirement still an option for him?
I think so. He's got a lot of years, a lot of wear and tear, and it's a lot to go through getting ready for a season and the season. But he's a competitor too, and I know he wants to keep playing if all things considered.
If he requests a trade, will you honor it?
Yeah. Oh yeah, we would. Yeah.
That's Mark Murphy, Packers president and COO. The Packers again did give Rodgers permission to the New York Jets to speak with Aaron Rodgers, which they did earlier this week.
breaking news, the Panthers have decided to move up to take the #1 spot from the Bears.
Everybody's trying to figure out exactly what Carolina do. Look, I think the pick will boil down to either Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud.
I think C.J. Stroud is probably the favorite right now, at least around the league, in terms of people I've talked to, that he would be the #1 pick in this draft.
And they said, we love all these quarterbacks, and we've got 48 days to make a decision on which one we will be taking.
So certainly a big day for Carolina Panthers fans. Their team now in possession of the #1 overall pick for the third time in franchise history. The last time they had it, that was in 2011 when they took Cam Newton. Of course, Newton eventually won an MVP and led the Panthers to a Super Bowl appearance. As for what the Panthers will do this time around with the top overall selection, quarterback seems to be the option. Matt Miller, ESPN NFL draft analyst, was on SportsCenter at 6 p.m., said C.J. Stroud has been the quarterback most connected to Carolina.
C.J. Stroud from Ohio State was the player who was connected to them even back a week ago when we were at the NFL Scouting Combine in Indianapolis. All the talk was C.J. Stroud's workout, which was flawless. It's one of the best throwing workouts I've ever seen at the Combine. Really caught the eye of Frank Reich, really caught the eye of a quarterback staff in Carolina that's phenomenal. When you think about Jim Caldwell, Josh McCown being there, I think C.J. Stroud is probably the favorite right now, at least around the league in terms of people I've talked to, that he would be the #1 pick in this draft.
As for the Panthers and what they could potentially still do with the #1 overall pick, now, because they like several other quarterbacks in this year's draft, David Newton, ESPN NFL Nation Carolina Panthers reporter, was on Freddie and Fitzsimmons, did say that there might be a scenario where the Panthers still trade the pick to Houston.
Here's what makes it more complicated. You got Houston at #2, and they want a quarterback. So unless Houston just had their eyes set on one guy and were willing to offer enough to give Scott Fitter several of those picks back, but he lost, then they might consider that. If they were convinced that it could be either, Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud, they'd be happy with either one. I just don't think that's going to happen. They just want to control that pick and to be able to make those type of choices, and now they have that.
Now, let's move out east to the ACC as we go some college basketball. Well, we'll stay in the state of North Carolina with Duke taking on Miami in the ACC semifinals. We'll pick up the action in the first half, and Mark Mitchell making a bucket for Duke.
Up ahead, Mitchell to the basket from the right side. Off the back rim and in on the lay-in try. Duke scoring in transition. They've got a 3-point lead, 25-22.
More from Duke. Derek Lively with a jam.
Chest pass left for Whitehead. And he gives it back to Proctor. Top of the key. Driving down the right side of the lane. He hangs, puts it off the window. No, and Derek Lively jams it on the follow. Duke 38, Miami 34.
We'll move on to the second half. Kyle Filipowski was certainly filling it for Duke.
Filipowski's got it, and he drives to the basket and scores as he plowed right over Anthony Walker. There was no whistle there. 2 for Filipowski. He's got 17. Duke leads by 6.
Meanwhile, Jeremy Roach hit a big shot late in the game to put Duke up by 7.
Proctor still holds the dribble. Filipowski calling for it. It's Lively top of the key. Shares left for Roach. He dribbles into a 3. Oh, it's good! Jeremy Roach, a huge three-pointer. Duke up by 7, 78-71 with 1:25 to go.
And the final 85-78. Duke wins it. Miami now 1-4 in the ACC semifinals since they joined the league back in 2005. Isaiah Wong, 22 points in the losing effort for the Hurricanes. Kyle Filipowski, 17 points to lead the way for Duke. Derek Whitehead with 16 off the bench. He and Jeremy Roach joined Holly Rowe after the semifinal win.
Doreen, you were so good today. You had a lot of opportunities at the free throw line. How did you really calm yourself and be big in those moments?
Just my teammates believing in me. They told me to come out and be aggressive. That's something he tell me every game. So I just had to come out here and be aggressive and, just get the win.
You guys had a big team meeting after you lost to Miami the last time. How did what you talked about that meeting manifest itself today?
Really just coming together. I mean, we knew when guys make runs, I mean, it's a tough team. Miami's a good team, but when guys make runs, we got to stick even closer together. I think we did that tonight.
You guys have some good communication, all 5 starters in double figures. How have you learned that there's enough to go around and team basketball is the way to win it?
That's something we learned as the season went on. In the beginning of the year, the ball was sticking a lot, and that's something that coach told us to constantly keep learning. And I feel like as the year went on, we just got better at it, making the extra pass. And I feel like that's been the difference with our team this year, making extra pass.
So much momentum of this group. They're so young, though, Jeremy. Outside of yourself, how proud are you of the young guys and how they've come on?
I'm proud of them. They kept their head on all season with all the outside noise, everybody coming in and saying whatever they got to say. But, I mean, we stuck together. We stuck with the 15 guys in the locker room. Listen to the coaching staff, and, I mean, we're on the ACC championship right now. So.
Yeah, we'll see you in the ACC championship. How does that sound?
Sounds great. Sounds great. Sounds great.
Some excited Duke Blue Devils fans again in the ACC finals. It'll be the 35th ACC tournament final appearance in Duke history, tying North Carolina for the most all-time. 8th straight win, by the way, for Duke. Problem for Duke, though, is they awaited the winner between Virginia and Clemson in the tournament final. Duke lost matchups against both teams, granted on the road in the regular season. So let's go to Clemson versus Virginia in the other ACC semis, and Jaden Gardner with a big day for Virginia.
Reese Beekman down the right side of the lane, feeds inside. Gardner puts it up and scores. Just a 2-man game there in the interior of the Clemson defense. Virginia now has its largest lead of the game, 35-25, less than a minute to go before halftime. At the left block, it's Gardner soaring a reverse lay-in with the right hand. Virginia running away to start the second half, 41-25. They close the first half on an 8-0 run and now make it 12 unanswered. Time runs out on the Clemson Tigers and their hopes for a trip to the NCAA tournament. Virginia duels them to defeat, 76-56 the final score. Virginia victorious over Clemson, and the ACC tournament final matchup is set. The Duke Blue Devils will take on the Virginia Cavaliers.
That is the call from Mike Cousins on ESPN Radio. A big, big day for Gardner and Virginia and the Cavaliers. As we talk about what Virginia is doing, Gardner with 23 points in the victory for the Cavs. Mike Cousins, Malcolm Huckabee on ESPN Radio with a postgame extra.
All right, thank you. And the ACC tournament finals are set. Greensboro, North Carolina. It'll tip off 8 Eastern on ESPN Radio. Quite a couple of games on Friday night in Greensboro. First, it was Duke, an 85-78 win over Miami. And then Virginia, a resounding defeat of Clemson, 76-56. Let's start with Duke, which in 2 games in Greensboro was averaging 91 points. They've now won 8 in a row, the hottest team in this league.
Yeah, and I think unfortunate break for Miami. They lose their best rebounder against a team they were going up against in Duke that had a size advantage, but make no mistake about it, Duke was really good defensively in that game. Derek Lively controlled the paint, and then Kyle Filipowski does not look like a freshman. He was the freshman of the year in the ACC, but he plays like an upperclassman veteran. He is a matchup nightmare. Duke right now looks like a team that is balanced, great defense, and then they can score with anybody in college.
It's going to be the size and the first-round NBA draft talent of Duke going up against Virginia, which led by 12 at halftime against Clemson, a team they had beaten earlier in the year by only 7, and the final margin of victory, 76-56, led by Jaden Gardner with 23 points, Armand Franklin with 16, and as usual from a Tony Bennett team, outstanding team defense.
I mean, you look at the numbers for Virginia offensively, they only made 3 threes in this game. They dominated the paint, 40 points in the paint. Ball movement, cuts, screens, and then their defensive pressure. The amount of times that Clemson took contested shots with the shot clock winding down, that's just the way their defense goes. They're one of the best defensive clubs I've seen in a long time. Really, it's just so difficult to run their offense. I think, though, they're going to be tested. The length of Duke, they're a team that has length 1 through 5, every position. They're going to have an advantage size-wise. Can they control the defensive glass, Virginia? I think that's going to be the key thing. Lively playing completely different along with Kyle Filipowski. I think those 2 guys right there, can Virginia match up with their length underneath?
Last month in Charlottesville, Virginia, it was an overtime win for the Cavaliers. The end of regulation, a controversial foul that under review was waved off. They went to overtime. The Cavaliers won, and it'll be Virginia and Duke Saturday night, 8 Eastern, ESPN Radio, to decide the ACC Tournament Championship. So winners on Friday night, Duke and Virginia, right here on your home court for college basketball, ESPN Radio. Now let's go back to you in the studio.
All right, thanks a lot, Mike. As the ACC tournament finals are set with Virginia taking on Duke. We'll switch back to the NBA. We go to the building formerly known as Staples for some NBA action tonight. No LeBron James for the Lakers, but things starting to get better for LA. 2 games under 500, but they've won 2 straight and 6 of 8 entering tonight as they took on the Toronto Raptors. We'll go to the fourth quarter. Lakers up by 2, and D'Angelo Russell starts to hit from downtown.
Boucher throws it away. Stolen by the Lakers. Gabriel ahead to Russell. Russell for 3. Good! Timeout, Toronto. Rebound, Gabriel. Outlet Russell. Here comes D'Lo. 3-pointer. Good again.
Big night for D'Angelo Russell, his first game back after a 6-game absence. 28 points and 9 assists for the dynamic guard. Dennis Schroeder with 23 points and 7 assists as the Lakers won for the 7th time in 9 tries. 122-112 was the final score. And the Nuggets near the top of the Western Conference all season long, taking on the lowly San Antonio Spurs. But San Antonio got a big night from Keldon Johnson.
Lobs it all the way to the top now. Johnson against Caldwell Pope. Outside left, Mamakhalishvili takes a 3. Right wing Johnson fires a 3. That's a KJ Trey. Keldon Johnson's got 23. Give an assist to Sandro Mamakhalishvili. And the Spurs lead at 118-108. 10-point advantage Spurs.
Denver had led it by 12 in the first quarter, but the Spurs outscored the Nuggets 42-29 in the second quarter and led the rest of the way. You heard it there, Keldon Johnson, 23 points in the victory for San Antonio as they win at 128-120. Again, the Spurs with just their 17th victory of the season. The Nuggets lose for the 21st time. They are 46-21. Sports Center all night, ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Still more college basketball to get to. Some news regarding Tua Tagovailoa, and it is almost tournament time. Plus, we'll hear from Jim Boeheim after his retirement. That's all coming your way, including our top sound from Friday. Sports Center all night, ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Coming up Monday, before you submit your bracket into the ESPN Tournament Challenge, I'll tell you which teams you should avoid and who is primed for a big-time run. Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max, Monday morning at 6 a.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio, E2, and ESPNU.
More Sports Center all night. Next.
Find your style with Patriot Lighting and get 11% off everything at Menards. Check out our lighting showroom and give any room a coordinated look. Patriot Lighting is available in so many unique styles and finishes. We have over 300 stock lights priced under $100, like the D flush mount ceiling light for just $29.99 after 11% off. Good through March 12th. Savings are a mail-in rebate. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
Save big money at Menards. Find your next car at hawkauto.com. Choose from new Ford, Chevy, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, Subaru, Cadillac, Mazda, Volkswagen, Nissan, and Wagoneer models, and a huge selection of pre-owned and certified pre-owned vehicles. Save with 0% financing plus no payments for 90 days. That's no payments until summertime. Find your next car today at hawkauto.com. Drive what I drive. Drive a Hawk. HawkAuto.com. On select models with approved credit, some may not qualify.
The Hockey Show.
I'm actively trying to be less gross. I got a Peloton, but you start getting on the instructor. This guy's way too positive. Yeah. My $1 million idea is it's hard cycled TM. Where we're basically just going to play the Herb Brooks from Miracle, where he's just being like, you're not looking too good for that brunch right now.
The Hockey Show with Pat Boyle and Barstool Chief. Saturday at 1 on ESPN Chicago. Brought to you by the Chicago Wolves. Unexpected reactions to smart financial decisions brought to you by feedthepig.org.
Well, I finally did it. My student loan is totally paid off.
I can't believe it.
I can't believe it either. I paid more than the minimum each month, and soon enough, it was gone.
So you're just giving up?
Giving up on what?
The life of luxury. Egyptian cotton, caviar Thursdays, designer everything.
What are you talking about?
Our plan. What happened to winning the lottery and mastering the art of the perfect mimosa? Hosting galas, wearing enough jewelry to require a bodyguard, vacationing in the French Riviera, and then buying it.
I just thought maybe it was time to prepare for my future. You know, set some financial goals, make some smart investments, open a 401k.
Financial goals? Investments? A 401k? You are horrifying right now. Listen, if winning the lottery were easy, everyone would do it.
When it comes to financial stability, don't get left behind. Get tools and tips for saving at feedthepig.org. This message brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
You don't usually get a stock tip from a 16-year-old, but I'm here to tell you about a different kind of stock. It's called Better Futures, a stock for social change that's not about making money. Instead, you invest to help students like me go to college, which ends up making the future better for all of us. My name is Alicia, and I am your dividend.
Invest in better futures with UNCF. Visit uncf.org/invest. A mind is a terrible thing to waste, but a wonderful thing to invest in. Brought to you by UNCF and the Ad Council.
Don't miss Peggy Kaczynski and Dion Miller. Saturdays 11 to 1 on Chicago's Home for Sports. ESPN Chicago. Brought to you by Sinus and Snoring MD.
This is SportsCenter all night on ESPN Radio and on the ESPN app.
It is almost tournament time. Tune in tonight for the Big 12 championship game, followed by the ACC championship game. Coverage begins at 5:30 Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app, SiriusXM Channel 80. I'm Alex Sabaro here on SportsCenter all night. Now, the big news around the NFL on Friday was the trading of the top overall selection in this year's draft from the Bears to the Carolina Panthers. Likely now the Panthers will draft the quarterback, but lost in that was some other quarterback news. The Dolphins electing to exercise the fifth-year option on oft-injured quarterback Tua Tagovailoa. Sources confirmed the news to ESPN that was first reported by the NFL Network. The Dolphins had until May 2nd to make the decision on the fifth-year option pickup. Tua did set career marks this season in several categories, including passing yards and touchdowns, but he did miss 5 games after suffering 2 concussions this year. But the Dolphins, at least right now, are sticking with Tua for next year. Jason Fitz from Fitz and Harry said tonight that the Dolphins have put their money where their mouth is with Tua.
They had no pressure, no reason they had to pick up a fifth-year option. In fact, you could argue picking up the fifth-year option, not picking up the fifth-year option, turns out to be a smart strategy for a lot of teams. You get a full another year of body of work. You get a full another year to answer any questions you have. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't cost you that much more. Look at Daniel Jones is a good example of that. So all of a sudden, now what you have is a Dolphins team that's telling you by picking it up today, we're good with the concussions, we're good with the health, we're good with the development, we're good with the passer, we're good with the human being. This is our guy moving forward. I think it's huge.
So Tua, certainly the guy, at least for now, in Miami as the Dolphins pick up their fifth-year option. Now, a lot of big games in college basketball tonight. Chris Smith has our top sound from Friday.
Number 5.
All right, we start on the hardwood where the Nets nabbed their 4th win in the last 5 games behind a 3-ball in overtime. The call on the Yes Network.
Dinwiddie trying to take off into the corner. The 3. Good! Dorian Finney-Smith nails the corner 3. And Brooklyn ahead 124-121.
Number 4.
Now Philly trailed Portland by 21 points, but the Joel Embiid go-ahead field goal with 1.5 seconds left completed the comeback. The call on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Maxey runs the screen for Joel. They knock down Maxey. Ball goes in, and Embiid has it against Nurkic. 5 seconds. Embiid making a move. Into the lane. Spins. Hangs. Fires. Shot up. And good with 1 second to go. Portland calls time. Embiid with a floating turnaround to give the Sixers the lead. And a deafening roar here in Philadelphia.
Number 3.
Xavier makes their 2nd appearance in the Big East Tournament Final thanks to some hot shooting from beyond the arc. Joe Sunderland from Learfield with the call.
Mike losses the timeline, comes to
A stop, keeping the dribble going. Right hand, left hand, right hand, left hand. Now he accelerates. Back out, straight away. Jack Dungy, straight away three. Dungy hits a three. Give the assist to Sulaibu.
Number 2. Clutch shooting was the key in the Big Ten as Penn State gets the Happy Valley Fable roaring in overtime. Steve Jones from Learfield with the call.
Bowie up, and that one is short, batted out. It's loose. McGee's at the wire to win it. Missed it. Rebound, batted out of bounds. And the Nittany Lions go to the semifinals as they beat Northwestern 67-65. Pretty not pretty does it for the Nittany Lions.
Number 1.
And finally, the theme of big three-pointers continues. This time, Marquette dials it up long distance. No extra charges apply. Steve True from Learfield with the call.
Cam Jones back to Prosper. Prosper in the lane against Sanogo. Back out. Chase Ross. Now Prosper. He'll try a three. Huge. Oh, huge. Huge. Wait. Tournament huge. Oh, baby, that's big. Marquette up by 4. 70-66. So big night around the college basketball hardwood. And while we'll talk about someone now that is stepping away from college basketball, and that's Jim Boeheim. On Wednesday, Syracuse officially said goodbye to longtime head coach Jim Boeheim. He announced his retirement from the school after 47 seasons at the helm. Boeheim spoke for the first time since the retirement announcement at a press conference today, introducing new head coach Adrian Autry. Boeheim was asked and gave a little more clarity on retiring.
I'm thrilled to be retired. I felt better the last 2 days than I felt in 47 years. I'm now 78 years old, and I'm probably most happy that I will never leave here. I'll never leave Syracuse, and I'll never leave Syracuse University. Cliff Winters hired me. I told him I was going to Rochester, and he says, "No, you're not." He says, "You're going to coach here." And I said, "Yes, I am." He said, "We're giving you 3 years." I said, "I need 4. I just wanted to make sure I could get 4. I didn't think anything about 47.
Syracuse also introduced new head coach Adrian Autry to the media, 1994 Syracuse grad and a Boeheim assistant. He was asked what he learned from Jim Boeheim as he joined Canty and Carlin.
Coaches allowed me to grow as a coach under him. He's given me a lot of responsibilities, but the things that really stick out to me that I think will carry over into this program is certain characteristics that he's shown, which is resilient, determined, always, consistent. He just gives me great characteristic traits of what it takes to be successful. And those are the things that I've really taken from him.
Championship weekend continues on Saturday on ESPN Radio, but first it's Marty and McGee. They'll get your Saturday morning rolling. I'm Alex Sobario, and this has been SportsCenter All Night on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Coming up Monday, before you submit your bracket in the ESPN Tournament Challenge, I'll tell you which teams are primed for a championship run. Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max, Monday morning at 6 Eastern on...
Are you working way too hard for way too little? There's never been a better time to consider a career in IT. You could enjoy a recession-resistant career in a rewarding field with plenty of growth opportunities and often flexible work environments. Go to mycomputercareer.edu and take the free
Head up by 4, 70-66. So big night around the college basketball hardwood. And while we'll talk about someone now that is stepping away from college basketball, and that's Jim Boeheim. On Wednesday, Syracuse officially said goodbye to longtime head coach Jim Boeheim. He announced his retirement from the school after 47 seasons at the helm. Boeheim spoke for the first time since the retirement announcement at a press conference today, introducing new head coach Adrian Autry. Boeheim was asked and gave a little more clarity on retiring.
I'm thrilled to be retired. I felt better the last 2 days than I felt in 47 years. I'm now 78 years old, and I'm probably most happy that I will never leave here. I'll never leave Syracuse, and I'll never leave Syracuse University. Cliff Winters hired me. I told him I was going to Rochester, and he says, "No, you're not." He says, "You're going to coach here." I said, "Yes, I am." He said, "We're giving you 3 years." I said, "I need 4. I just wanted to make sure I could get 4. I didn't think anything about 47.
He's also introduced new head coach Adrian Autry to the media, 1994 Syracuse grad and a Boeheim assistant. He was asked what he learned from Jim Boeheim as he joined Canty and Carlin.
Coaches allowed me to grow as a coach under him. He's given me a lot of responsibilities, but the things that really stick out to me that I think will carry over into this program is certain characteristics that he's shown, which is resilient, determined, always, consistent. He just gives me great characteristic traits of what it takes to be successful. And those are the things that I've really taken from him.
Championship weekend continues on Saturday on ESPN Radio, but first it's Marty and McGee. They'll get your Saturday morning rolling. I'm Alex Sabario, and this has been SportsCenter All Night on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Coming up Monday, before you submit your bracket in the ESPN Tournament Challenge, I'll tell you which teams are primed for a championship run. Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max, Monday morning at 6 Eastern on ESPN Radio.
O'Reilly. Cleaning your fuel system can help your engine run better and improve gas mileage. Visit O'Reilly Auto Parts and pick up a bottle of Chevron Techron Fuel System Cleaner. On sale now. Buy one, get one free. Plus, get 2 times O Rewards points. Get more fuel-saving tips from the professional parts people at your local O'Reilly Auto Parts or visit O'ReillyAuto.com.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Guys, fellas, men, are you Roman ready for the weekend? Right now, generic Viagra, aka sildenafil, is just $4 per dose at Roman. Just complete a free online visit with a U.S. licensed healthcare professional. If medication is appropriate, Roman sends what you need in discreet packaging with free 2-day shipping. Generic Viagra from $4 at Roman. Go to ro.co/weekend. Do it today and get 20% off your entire first order. That's ro.co/weekend.
You can't miss a moment with Greeny.
For the first time, this felt so tangible, as though I'm not just sitting around wondering, could Aaron Rodgers become the next quarterback of the New York Jets, but that it actually is in progress. Aaron Rodgers going back to the Packers right now feels to me like overwhelmingly the least likely of the scenarios that will ensue. I will repeat, I have been told by so many people not to ignore the possibility that he retires.
Greeny, weekday mornings at 10 a.m. on 98.7 ESPN.
I'm Martin Hope, the inventor of Navage Nasal Care, and I love Navage. I told you about how your nose is the body's air filter, that Navage's powered suction will help flush out allergens, viruses, mucus, and germs, and that Navage will help you breathe better. But what do other people say about Navage? Like Josh, quote, "After walking around my whole life being a mouth breather, I was excited to try Navage. I read the directions carefully, pressed the button, and oh my gosh, what a sensation. So much mucus, so much crud, but oh sweet, merciful air, I can finally breathe you through my nose. Never have I ever taken such an amazing breath in my life. This is a life changer," unquote. He's one of over 100,000 online reviews praising Navage, the all-natural solution trusted by over 3 million people to help you breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier without drugs. Navage is available at Walmart, CVS, Walgreens, Target, Rite Aid, and online. Navage, Navage, clean nose, healthy life.
Anyone who has ever needed self-storage knows what a hassle it can be. You have to rent or borrow a truck and then find someone to help you move your stuff. And let's face it, moving furniture and heavy items without damaging them isn't easy. Renting the unit is worse. The hidden fees and admin costs are scarier than the dingy facilities you're leaving your stuff in. Why not use Closet Box instead? Closet Box is self-storage without leaving home. They'll pick up your belongings, store them securely, and bring any item back when you need it. The best part? Unlike traditional self-storage, you only pay for what you store. No paying for unused storage space. Closet Box's background check storage movers are licensed, bonded, and insured and will take care of all of the heavy lifting. Closet Box's local storage centers are temperature controlled and monitored 24/7. Closet Box has an A+ rating from the BBB. Call 877-233-5696 now for the season's best rates. Get $50 off first month storage using code RADIO50. That's 877-233-5696. 877-233-5696.
Ray Magliozzi here for eBay Motors. You're driving along and some nimrod cuts you off. You hit the horn. Jeez, it sounds like a goose in distress. Time to head over to eBay Motors. They have horns for every make and model, not to mention horn pads, steering wheels, wiring, and more. 122 million parts. You can even go for an upgrade. It looks like Mr. Cutoff Man needs a new seat cover. Try eBay Motors, pal. Get the right parts at the right prices. eBay Motors. Let's ride.
You're listening to 1050 ESPN, your home for New York Islanders hockey. WEPN, New York, a Good Karma Brands radio station.
This is SportsCenter. Hello there, I'm Mark Robbins. Well, it's the middle of March, but the NFL grabs the headlines on Friday with the Chicago Bears trading the top overall draft selection to the Carolina Panthers for wide receiver DJ Moore and 4 draft choices, 2 firsts and 2 second-rounders. Now the questions shift from what will the Bears do to what will the Panthers do, or who they will they choose. ESPN NFL insider Adam Schefter says just right there in front of everyone.
Clearly, at this point in time, it seems to me a decision between Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud, both in play for the number 1 overall pick. And as that one Panthers official just said to me, we've got 48 days to go through this.
That's Adam Schefter on ESPN SportsCenter. Championship weekend rolling on in college basketball. Friday, the Duke Blue Devils roll into the ACC title game with a semifinal win over Miami, 85-78. So it'll be Duke and Virginia for the ACC championship. That game will tip 8 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPN. Other conference title games on Saturday include Arizona and UCLA in the Pac-12 final. Texas and Kansas will meet in the Big 12 championship game. The championship Saturday will begin at 11 a.m. Eastern. It is tradition. It is the America East championship game. And once again, it's at Vermont. The Catamounts will host UMass Lowell. Coming up next here on ESPN Radio, why, it's Marty and McGee.
Hey, it's Greeny, and hope you're enjoying this weekend. I can tell you all I'm doing is sitting and refreshing Twitter every 15 seconds, waiting for news on Aaron Rodgers coming to the Jets. We'll talk about that, Selection Sunday, and more Monday. It's Greeny, starting 10 a.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Don't miss the #1 rated afternoon drive show in New York. It's the Michael K. Show. And it's every weekday at 2:55 on 98.7 ESPN.
Good morning, it's Santa Lynn. If the rooster's crowing, it's time for Marty and McGee.
I've been down the Mississippi. Hey, everybody, it is time for Marty McGee on ESPN Radio, the SEC Network, and the ESPN app, presented by Progressive Insurance. You can call us 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Coming up this morning, we got Mikey C. Smoking Hot Sports Takes. Joe Lenardi going to join us to talk about bracketology. And Pat Bradley, the shooter, is going to join us. Of course, he's the SEC Network college basketball analyst and Hillbilly Headlines. And speaking of the SEC, we are, of course, on ESPN Radio, also on television with the SEC Network. And Marty, where are you right now? If you're watching on the SEC Network, you see Marty. It looks like he's sitting maybe in like a hotel conference room.
My room. I'm in my hotel room, but it's a fancy pants suite.
Yeah.
So I actually have another little area, So yeah. I'm in that other little area.
Okay.
We're a couple blocks away from the Bridgestone Arena, where for the past 3 days there has been some awesome basketball games in the SEC tournament. And if you would have told me that this would have been the final 4 teams standing in the SEC tournament, I probably would have lost that bet.
Yeah.
But congratulations to the 4 teams that have moved on. We all expected Alabama to be there. They've been playing at such a high level, one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the country all year long. Texas A&M has been fantastic behind Buzz Williams. And Missouri played so well yesterday against Tennessee. What an awesome performance. And Vanderbilt.
Right.
The Vanderbilt Commodores beat the Kentucky Wildcats for the second time in only a few days here and move along here to the semifinals. And what an awesome performance by Jerry Stackhouse and his group. He's coach of the year in the conference for a reason. And It's just a tremendous, tremendous job. And I can't wait to see what they do today. That game's going to be interesting. Both games today are going to be interesting. So after 3 hours of Marty and McGee, I'll be heading back over to Bridgestone after I put my suit on, and we'll do these 2 games today. But, I mean, as wonderful as it is to be here in Nashville, and, man, let me tell you, brother, it's awesome to be back here at Full Song. The arena is rocking. Everybody is so thrilled to be back here. We're here for the next 10 years for the SEC basketball tournament, but there's some news over there where you're sitting that made me get up off the couch yesterday, Bubba.
Yeah, so yesterday I watched you on the sideline of the Tennessee-Missouri basketball game when Missouri upset UT, and I just had the TV on in the background. I had to do a little bit of work. And all of a sudden, man, they switched over. As soon as your game was done, they went straight to SportsCenter. And all I know is I was over in the other corner of my basement in the office, and Adam Schefter, the pitch in his voice was, I mean, that man was fired up. And I was like, what in the world is Shefty talking about? And I walked around the corner, and the news had he had just broken the news. I mean, just as you guys were wrapping up that basketball game, which is that the Carolina Panthers, which, full disclosure, I'm sitting in the Wilderness Lodge Studios in Charlotte. Bank of America Stadium is, with good traffic 20 minutes from here. The Panthers traded a lot to get the first round, the number 1 pick in the draft from the Chicago Bears. There was a lot of buzz coming out of Indianapolis that the Bears were making it known. Anybody want to talk about the number 1 pick? And there were several teams that were interested in that, and the Panthers traded a lot of picks and a player, and now they have the number 1 pick in the NFL draft, and they have 47 days and a brand new coaching staff to figure out what it is that they want to do, and it's going to be a quarterback, and it seems to be a debate. David Tepper, who owns that team, it's no secret that he is really big on Bryce Young. And it's also no secret that, obviously they like C.J. Stroud out of Ohio State as well. And, yeah, it was – I mean, it is – there was a lot of energy in the city of Charlotte yesterday, and there still is this morning talking about, I mean, what they want to do, what they may or may not do with that number 1 pick, man. And the last time they had a number 1 pick, they picked a guy named Cameron Newton, who he was a pretty good football player in the National Football League.
He did all right. I mean, one of the most amazing seasons ever. That season he won the MVP back in 2015, I think it was. So here is what the Bears receive as a result of making this trade with the Carolina Panthers as the Panthers move up to the number 1 overall pick. The Bears get the number 9 pick this year overall in the first round. They get a late second-round pick at number 61. They get a 2024 first-round selection and a 2025 second-round pick. That, according to our boy Shefty, that's a haul for the Chicago Bears. Of course, they also got DJ Moore.
Yep.
And so from everything I've read, it's going to be extremely beneficial for Justin Fields to have a guy like Moore, who's done very well in Charlotte. And quite frankly, Justin Fields hasn't had a guy who was a legit dog number 1 guy.
Yeah.
And so now he's going to have a guy that has that ability.
Yeah.
And, I mean, Bears fans, I was scrolling through social media late last night when I got done with work just to kind of see the reaction to all of this. And Bears fans seem thrilled because they got this massive haul, and Charlotte's electric as a result of this. Look, Bryce Young, to me, I don't know where your head is on this. I'm a huge fan of C.J. Stroud. I actually thought that Ohio State was going to beat Georgia in the Peach Bowl as a result of his ability to stretch the football field with his arm. Of course, with Marvin Harrison Jr. As his primary target in that game. They almost pulled it off. And the big question was, would he be able to run? Would C.J. Stroud be able to run against Georgia when necessary? He did so.
Yeah.
But it was really kind of running for his life a little bit.
Right.
Now, Bryce Young is, to me, I don't understand. What did he? It was 5'10 and a half, 204.
Sure.
Like
yeah.
that.
It was 5.
He
weighed more than they expected, and he was a little shorter than people expected. And I didn't care about either one.
And I don't care about it either. And of course, his answer was perfect. I've been this size for years, and I think that we made the point here on our television program that, I mean, he played against some pretty big dudes on those SEC West defensive fronts.
Yep.
And SEC East, for that matter, with the Dogs. So, I mean, to me, it seems like, okay, Bryce Young is the answer here, and let's work from there. But to your point, they have 47 days to convince themselves otherwise and to go to these pro days and see where they are. But you're right. I mean, it's a quarterback league. The Panthers haven't had a game-changing talent at that position since Cam was the MVP of the league. And so they're going to go get a quarterback. And that's really exciting for Charlotte. We need a guy who's the face of the city. And hopefully that's Bryce Young. We'll see.
Well, and looking at the best available players listed by our friends over at ESPN.com that do the NFL draft. Of course, Mel Copper Jr. joined us just last week. Bryce Young, 1, Will Anderson, 2, C.J. Stroud, 3. And then when it comes to quarterbacks, it's listed as obviously Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud. And then the next quarterback you see on the board is Will Levis, another guy that we know pretty well out of Kentucky. And so the Panthers believe that they have the opportunity here to change the direction of the franchise, which is why you send as much as they just did out the door to get this number 1 pick. And they feel very strongly about that. And it'll be interesting. Frank Reich is a fascinating guy. A guy I've been around a little bit. His brother, Joe, has been the head football coach at Wingate University, worked for my dad, for years. And Frank used to hang around campus. Frank was like a grad assistant. Guy played in the league forever, and he was coaching quarterbacks at a D2 school outside of Charlotte. So he knows the area. He knows the league. If you know anything about the type of quarterback that Frank Reich likes, he likes quarterbacks that remind him of himself, big dudes. He likes big guys. And that's why suddenly the buzz about C.J. Stroud has caught a lot of momentum, because that's a big dude. And yeah, you mentioned Marvin Harrison Jr. I went up there this year to Ohio State and did a story about that receiving room. And those receivers were very quick to say, yeah, we're really good. We might be the best group of wide receivers in the country. But the reality is we don't have to work that hard because the ball is where it's supposed to be all the time. And those balls.
We both, I know we got a hot bulldog, but quickly, if you understand C.J. Stroud's personal makeup, if you understand who the man is, you're so impressed with the person, with the poise, with what he's overcome, with the fact that he's able to compartmentalize so much. And